What's up, everyone? It's your boy, ThePandaPhotographer. For all you gamers, live streamers, workstation, videographers, illustrators, artists, you have a PC, and you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on with my CPU throttling issues. And some of you may not know about PC throttling, and some of you may not know about PC undervolting, but we are going to talk about that today. So normally I do live streams at 12 o'clock, but I was really busy today trying to help other students at the UW, international students, with a visa issue about OPT. If you guys don't know what a OPT is, like an online training course. So, and the visa qualifications to apply for them. So anyway, I'm gonna start this pretty shortly. So I'm using this room again because I decided that this room is probably going to separate the background a little bit. All right. I know that this was scheduled for 2 o'clock, but just try to get this over with because I have a really busy Monday. So, and everything's just been sidetracked, and I'd rather be on time than late, because last few live streams I've been extremely late. So anyway, guys, as the ThePandaPhotographer, if you didn't see my last live stream, we talk about how to improve the microphone if you're using the newer NWA100. But if you have a dynamic microphone, condenser microphone, this may work for you at the settings. So I will leave that link to the video somewhere, the annotation somewhere here, so look for it. But anyway, so all my music, by the way, is actually non-copyrighted, downloaded from the YouTube library. I do a lot of extensive research on it. So let's jump into a full screen on me, and we're going to talk about the benefits on why you should undervolt your CPU. Now, this laptop here that I'm using is a gaming laptop. Now, I did change the display. Mind you, when I purchased this laptop, I'm going to be very transparent here. When I purchased this laptop, it came with a mechanical hard drive, which I hate mechanical hard drives now. And what I wanted to do was use nothing but SSDs. That's what I'm using right now. And what you see before you is my setup. So when I'm a travel photographer, I have to rent these rooms out to do these live streams. And you see how I set up, and then I gotta box them back into my Pelican case and my low pro bag and my other bag and be on my way. But this laptop here is a Lenovo Y700 SC. I actually changed most of the important hardware on this laptop. The hard drive is replaced with SSDs. I'm using an N.2.VM2 SSD, and I'm also using SSDs in the 3.0 port. So I got 2 SSDs inside the laptop and another one outside using the 3.0 port. I did change my thermal paste from the stock thermal paste that comes with my laptop. Now, take this with a grain of salt. You may not want to do that. You don't have to do that. But when you buy aftermarket thermal paste for your CPU and GPU performance, this stuff comes really good. This is the PK3 thermal paste. This is the nano thermal paste that I've been using. I had this tube for the last 10 years. Mind you, let me show you. You see this tube? I'm sure you guys can see that. Can you guys see that? Great. So this is what I had so far. And I replaced the stock thermal compound with this, which is pretty damn good stuff. And I'm using the Intel Extreme Tuning Utility to undervolt my CPU, and I'm gonna show you that in a second, so you guys have a better understanding why you should undervolt your CPU. Anyone can do it, but you gotta do the research. Look up your CPU specs and see which model you have: 7th generation, 6th generation, 8th generation, 9th generation. And yesterday, I wanted to inform you on a story. Now, I have a fellow friend, photographer that lives in Australia named Hani Saber. It's a good dude. But what I don't like, what I dislike is that when he was trying to ask for assistance on his throttling issue, he didn't know he had a PC throttle, he didn't know what was going on with his Dell XP S15. That one comes with the Intel 7700K, same architecture design basically as this 6700 HQ that I have in this laptop. Now, keep this with a grain of salt. Let's go back to the screen here. Take this with a grain of salt, okay? When people were commenting, they were suggesting gaming laptops, and then it wasn't even, they were trying to, I don't want to be direct, and I don't want to seem like a mean person, but I wanted to say this: stop giving bad advice. You photographers, don't try to jump into a field that you're not educated on. And this is why photographers should learn about their tech and the hardware they buy. A lot of photographers just go by numbers, and that's the problem. Numbers. They're not going by specifications and how it can perform. What's the benefits of buying this CPU from this CPU? Why should I upgrade from this CPU and this CPU? What they were suggesting to Hani Saber was that, oh, he should buy this laptop, he should buy this laptop, he should buy that laptop. And half those laptops they mentioned, it came with a very terrible screen. Colors were inaccurate. Like someone mentioned the Helios 300. Very bad Adobe RGB, sRGB. And I was just like, why? Why would you want him to spend money when he doesn't even have to spend a single dime? The only issue that he was having was CPU throttling. He didn't know anything about that, so I had to help him yesterday. And right now, I just finished talking to him on text message. He said that it's running pretty good. He hasn't done anything extremely heavy quite yet, but he has seen a really difference when it comes down to like the touch up his laptop, the touch up his CPU performance, the constant performance that when he boots up programs, they boot up right away. But with that said, everyone, I wanted to get that story out of the way, because I want to emphasize that if you don't know anything about tech and the architecture designs behind CPUs, then don't. If you're not someone that's influenced in the gamer industry or the tech industry, and you just know about photography, but you don't know anything about laptops and what's going on, because every single last comment did not mention CPU throttling. Everyone was making bad suggestions. There was one suggestion where someone was saying it's a hard drive issue, when that I was saying to the person, his laptop doesn't come with the hard drive. Are you reading? No one's reading what he wrote, and that's the problem with some groups on Facebook. No one reads. Everyone wants to be a hero, but don't want to spit out facts. So, with that said, everyone, let me fix this really quickly. We back in the game. We back in the game. So, with that said, everyone, you can go to my website at 616studios.com. I am a travel photographer. I do a videography. I'm a YouTube content creator. I take portraits, photos. I got tutorials on how to protect your work, and a bunch of cool stuff that you might want to be. Oops, let me get rid of this. A bunch of cool stuff that you might be looking for that's useful for your everyday average photography, even if you're a hobbyist or not. So I got tips, I got a gallery, and you want to support on what I do as a travel photographer, you can. There's a donation, PayPal donation button right here. Really does help me out, and it helps me keep on the lights here. Yeah, it helps me keep making content and staying afloat. So I really do appreciate it if you do. But other than that, I got an Instagram. This is my Instagram, ThePandaPhotographer here. You can check out some of my lovely photos. Now, some of my photos are not on my website. I try to keep most of my photos private because of clients that I have. But I do post quite extensively on Instagram. As you can see, I do a lot of event photography, a lot of celebrity photography, a lot of nature, a lot of cityscapes, a lot of urban, a lot of time-lapse, a lot of nice exposures, a lot of nature, astrophotography, cityscape, portraits. You can see, if you want to see some of my Lightroom music tutorials, you can see me do this portrait right here, which is by far, everyone loves Lady Leah, by the way. Amazing. But I appreciate you guys that do follow me on Instagram. I do appreciate that you guys take the time out to follow me on Instagram and see what I can provide, because a lot of people are thankful that I actually provide some content that makes sense, and I do appreciate it. To the real photographers out there that actually do shoot and do post their work all the time. So, and you can see, but I also have a Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at 6for6 Studios. Not the Panda Photographer, but 6for6 Studios. And there's a reason why I put 6for6 Studios. Okay? But anyway, you can see me post. You can see me post a video about this from Instagram. So, yeah, go check it out. And you can see my past videos on Instagram as well, just in case you missed some of the episodes as well. But other than that, guys, so let's talk about undervolting. Why you should do undervolting. Alright, so if you download the Intel Extreme Utility, why you should undervolt? Well, right now you can see this is the undervolt stage, right? And let me try to do something here. Let me try to actually, let me shut off the webcam here. Okay, so you guys can see better. So you can see the entire screen. So you guys have a better sense of what's going on. Undervolt also has benefits. Would you damage your CPU by doing this? It's highly unlikely that you would, because you're undervolting. What it is that you're going to be using power when necessary, but you're going to be using low power consumption when you're not intensively doing like gaming, or say like you load up Lightroom, or you load up or you search in the web or anything like that. So it does clock down from its stock default clock speed. Say your CPU default clock speed is at 2.6. The benefit of undervolting is that when you undervolt, you also keep the heat down, the temperatures down. But when you undervolt, the clock speed on the frequency goes lower, meaning that it will use less power and it be power efficient. But the benefits also is that your laptop will last much longer. I have done this to 2 laptops in the past. I had a Gigabyte U2440 2242N from Thailand that I got it, and that laptop lasts me 4 years doing undervolting. And I used it, and this is the brand new laptop before that laptop, and that was the benefit. It lasted such a long time that it was working perfectly fine. There was physically nothing wrong with the CPU or the performance, but you know, over time, Intel doesn't release BIOS updates or updates for the system anymore. So I had no choice after 3 or 4 years to think about buying a new laptop. But anyway, the core voltage offset here, it's basically you taking your default clock speed, because normally it's on static. So what you want to do is place this on adapt. And what you want to do is, say if you have the 6700 HQ or the 7700 7th generation Intel processor. Now I did look up the 7850 and 7850 8th generation processors, you may want to stick around 1.125 millivolts still when you undervolt. But the benefits of this is when you undervolt, you're not just taking the benefits of saying you're not taking the benefits of just lowering your CPU temperature or having better performance at the same time. You also, if you have a dedicated GPU, you also are going to be noticing a big difference in GPU temperatures as well, because some of the heat pipes on laptops, especially on laptops, share those heat pipes. So let's say you did undervolt your CPU, and let's say that you wanted to demonstrate, and I'm leaving it on the screen so you can see in real time what my CPU is doing, because I got a lot of programs loading. I have this doing live stream so you can see the temperatures right now. Now I am able to control my fan speed, but I'm gonna let the computer do that for me at the time so you can see in the real world what does happen, because some of you can't control your fan speeds on your laptops because sometimes the manufacturer doesn't give you that flexibility. But this is a real world scenario. But as I was saying, this GPU temperatures will decrease as well when you do the undervolt for your CPU, because like I said, those heat pipes are sharing. Now I do recommend, like I said earlier in this video too, if you are capable of changing the thermal paste on your CPU and GPU, that would definitely increase temperatures as well and make it make a big improvement in that category. So, and as you can see, I have it at 0.125 millivolts down, and when you apply the core voltage offset, this also applies to the cache voltage offset. So that's all in sync together. But if you download other applications, like what is it, Tech Power Up has a program that you can use, but keep in mind that you do have to keep these apps open, and you can minimize them and have them somewhere in your taskbar, but you have to keep these open if you want to activate them and use it. And as you can see, we are live streaming right now. Got my professional web camera with my Sigma 1835. I got the microphone H4n plugged in. I got my SACs going, so it's only at 63, 65 Celsius. Now if I was to go in here, by the way, and turn on my fan speed, and you can see my specs right now. You can see that I'm using an Intel 6700 HQ. I'm using 12 gigabytes of Kingston HyperX. I'm using all SSDs and 960M 2 gigabyte graphics cards. Right? And I did overclock my graphics card too. I'm going to show you that in a minute. But now watch the temperatures drop after I just activated my fans. Now I put on extreme cooling just to give you guys a demonstration when you're actually doing gaming or programming or editing photos or editing videos and say Adobe Premiere. And I actually demonstrated that in a video just the other day and on Facebook. So if you follow me on Facebook, I'll show you my Facebook in a minute. I made a video showing the rendering times of what it does. When you undervolt your CPU, you also increase performance at the same time. So my export times was so quick at a 7-minute and 35-second 1080p 60 frames a second video with color grading. All the footage was color graded with animations from After Effects and animations from Adobe Premiere as well, and it actually export that within 24 minutes time. That's 7-minute and 35-second clip. So, and you can see that my temperatures are now sticking around 57, 54 Celsius. Just pay attention to the clock speed that sticks around 3.1. It's going to do that. It's not going to top off at max clock speed. That's just how it works. But if I was to use gaming programs, it would hit that max 3.6 gigahertz frequency. Now you can see up and down in the 50s. I'm just up and down in the 50s. So now we're gonna turn the fan speed off just a moment. And you can see that it says CPU utilization is at 25%. So I'm not fully using the CPU because I don't have a heavy loading software up like Adobe Premiere or Lightroom or a Handbrake or a 3D model application. Because I feel that if I was to do that, the live stream might become a little bit laggy, especially with the with my professional camera as my webcam. I'm having some difficulties with the Sony Imaging Edge software because I gotta keep reinstalling it and uninstalling it just to get it to work. So bear with me. But I'm using the PK3 thermal paste here, so it does work out for the better. Let me see the screen. Okay, that's better. So if you guys are curious on the video quality, I'm shooting this in 1080p, 60 frames a second. And I made a video about this particular setup and how I am getting 1080p, 60 frames a second, smooth quality. I hope you guys do enjoy it. Now I am using the lights in this room as a fill light, but I'm also using another key light here, which is the Aperture H198C, and I'm using the newer CM160 LED light source as a red gel. So that's where you see the red on one side and a little daylight on one side, and then you see the fill gel on one side. So the benefits for everyone to absolutely, and I do recommend it to everyone, to undervolt your CPU. You're not just going to be saving power, but you're going to be also, you know, getting the benefits of, you know, consistent performance. Now keep in mind, if you are mobile with your laptop, you're going to see some different elaboraties on power consumption. Say if you use Adobe while you're on your laptop, it will jump into the high clock speed. And that will mean that it will eat up your battery life. So there is sort of I guess you want to call it a side effect to that, but is that really a side effect or a bad thing when it's actually using the whole CPU clock speed when not plugged in? I don't think so. Some people might call that a little side effect from undervolting, but like I said, it needs power to draw to the max CPU frequency on the CPU. So, and let me show you some more stuff here. Okay, let's go to my Facebook. See, and I'm able to load up as many programs as I want. Now keep in mind, the more RAM that you have in your system, the better, because apps can use, say if you run Adobe Premiere, 16 gigabytes is just quite enough. Okay, a lot of people are saying should I upgrade to RAM performance? You don't have to update to RAM performance. So it's this video right here that I demonstrate. It's about 30 minutes long, and I talk for the first 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and you can see where I'm actually going to be booting up Adobe Premiere, and you can check it out on my Facebook. And I was on campus yesterday, and I wanted to demonstrate it in real time about the situation in hand, and I wanted to show you guys that I had it at 140. So I do have a BIOS, like a profile setting. Okay, so let's go back into this. So I do have a profile of different undervolt settings. So I noticed with my particular 6700 HQ, now not all CPUs are made equally the same. Yours may vary. You may not want to achieve 140 millivolts of undervolting. Yours may max out at 130. So I used the profile TPP, which means the PandaPhotographer, but I use that when I'm doing Premiere Pro and then I switch off and on to 2.0 when I'm actually want to do a little bit of gaming or browsing the internet or whatever. But here's important too. Not a lot of people think of this in consideration. Now I have my power plan configured to a custom power plan. Now I'm using System Mechanics as well. Now I do recommend it, downloading. Let's go. And I'm being very transparent here. Come on. System Mechanics. I've been using System Mechanics for 12 years. Okay, it's never let me down. Now a lot of people have downloaded other applications that clean out your disk, and I'm going to talk about disk space. All right, do not ever in your entire life defrag or realign an SSD. They already have trim support. A mechanical hard drive that has a platter that's spinning, that's when you realign and you defrag your hard drive. Now fragmentation is where you clean out your hard drive, but that doesn't mean that it puts the data all together. That is called realignment. Realignment is where it takes, which I'm going to demonstrate with the toolbox here. You're going to go into the disk, and we are going to I'm going to demonstrate this for you. So if you look at this pie here, you see pieces like slices of pie, right? In those slices of pie, they are called sectors. In those sectors, the data is stored in those sectors. Okay, over time on a mechanical hard drive, when you use it, when it reads and has to write and it reads and writes, it tries to, what happens is the hard drive is using that data and then moving that data around the platter to compensate for space that you may want to install another software in, because you're constantly saving data. So it's constantly moving that data around the platter. Now, keep in mind that when you do this, I recommend every 14 to 21 days that you realign your hard drive. And there's a benefit behind realign your hard drive, because what happens is when you do realign the hard drive, let me go back to my screen now. Oh, goodness. Let's go back here. Okay, so when you realign in the hard drive, imagine you downloaded a software, and over time the data it's all scattered around the platter. What happens is realignment, it takes all that same data, it takes that data and tries to put it all back together in one sector or close to each other for better reads and write speeds. So that's what realignment does. It just takes that information and tries to put it back together, so it's much practical for the heads on that mechanical hard drive to read that information faster and to write to the hard drive much faster. Now I do recommend fragmentation in your hard drive maybe every 30 to 45 days. Depends how much you use and how much data that you store and saving on the hard drive. Don't use other applications that would delete files that you don't want to delete. System Mechanics, on the other hand, doesn't do that. System Mechanics would tell you, hey, we are not going to delete. The system I've been using for a long time doesn't delete files that you want. It just puts the files together, and then it thinks intelligently and says, oh, we're going to take all this space and we're going to put all this space in one sector, so you know this is how we are going to fix your issues on your mechanical hard drive. Now with SSDs, you don't need to do that. As I said, it's just trim support is already a feature on a lot of SSDs that come with. That's one of the features and the benefits. The read and write speeds are so much faster and so much better in that regard. But yeah, so let's go back into the main screen. So this is System Mechanics. I've been using System Mechanics for a long time. Not sponsored by them, but I do like to hook up sometimes. But anyway, System Mechanics is one of those softwares that you can rely on. I guarantee it. Trust me, I made like 4 videos in this in the last 5 years, and people love the videos that I made. Why you should buy System Mechanics. It's a really good software, and you can try it for 30 days free. Just go to systemmechanics.com and go to downloads, which I'll probably demonstrate that for you right now. How about that? System. Oh, it comes up on the Google search right there. Boom. Now, if you go to System Mechanics, you go to Downloads. Now, you have a choice. You have a choice. Now, you can download System Mechanics Pro, System Mechanics, and it doesn't matter which one. I think you should start off with System Mechanics. Pro is a little bit attentive, so you can download for 30 days free, and you can try it, and if you like it, you can buy it, and I guarantee you will buy it and you will keep the software, because it's a reliable tool for your PCs and for your gaming computers too, because it helps restore the life back into your laptops or your desktops. So if you're a PC user, I do recommend it. And you can see that PC Editor's Choice, New York Times, and Tech Radar recommended it, and I also recommend it as well, because I've been using it for 12 years. It's such a good tool, it's such a good software, and I definitely recommend it. And but other than that, let's go back into System Mechanics. You have a bunch of other features that you can boost, and you can set up a boost profile too on here. You can set, say, when you are editing, you can go here and put music video production ultra performance, and on top of that, when you are undervolting your CPU, you can use this feature, and I guarantee you're going to get the best performance out of your CPU and System Mechanics working together. So, and note they don't conflict with each other, so keep that in mind. It just says, oh, because you already set the undervolt, and it said, oh, I'm going to use the highest clock speed possible for this software, because some software are still not pushing 4 gigahertz, 3.6 gigahertz. It depends on the CPU architecture design as well. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys that. And I wanted to show you guys my profiles. So I definitely recommend saving a profile. Definitely recommend saving a profile for your undervolting. And it's as easy to do. And if you need some help, there's always YouTube. But look for channels that are certified and know what they're talking about, and have really good experience in dealing with undervolting. And I definitely recommend it. And I'm trying to keep this laptop for the next 2-3 years, because this is gonna really, and I had this laptop since August of 2008. I ran into some issues with the mechanical hard drive, because the mechanical hard drive, for some reason, Lenovo, you did not want me to install the factory installment of Windows, the copy they give you on this laptop, on a separate hard drive and an SSD. Why Lenovo? So I had to go out and buy a separate Windows copy to install a fresh copy on that SSD, because I was going through some issues recently with this laptop, and I decided to go out and spend money on a, which was about, what, 2 months ago, guys. I had this error problem, and the error problem started with, because you can't clone, and I don't recommend, don't clone a hard drive to an SSD. Don't ever. Just install a fresh copy of Windows and install all your programs on that fresh copy, on that SSD, sorry, on that first SSD, and all the BIOS updates and stuff like that. You can go to your manufacturer's website and download those applications. That's not really hard to do. So, and most laptop manufacturers or desktop manufacturers have what they call their own software to automatically detect your system specs and download those softwares or those drivers for your system. I hope you do like the music, guys. But other than that, you see in right now with the live stream and everything being active, you can see that the CPU throttling is, the CPU throttling is not existent. So you see where it says thermal throttling and power limit throttling. If you are PC throttling and you see that go yes and yellow, that means you have a serious problem. So definitely recommend undervolting your CPU. There's so many benefits behind it, and no, you're not going to kill your PC or your CPU. The most worst case scenario that will happen, to be honest with you, is that your CPU is going to tell itself you undervolted too much, so therefore I'm going to actually choose the right voltage for you or reset itself. So that's why I said please do the research on your CPU. And does this work with dual core processors? It does, but you don't want to do no more than like 40-50 millivolts of undervolting on dual core processors. Only quad core CPUs are able to handle higher undervolting settings. So if you do have a dual core, you might not want to hit, like, I would say maybe 40 to 40 millivolts at minimum. So keep that in mind for you dual core laptops out there. And keep in mind, if you don't have a GPU, that's more power to you, the better. But like I said earlier, if you have a GPU on your laptop, trust me, that's also going to affect the GPU's temperatures. That's going to increase. So as I was going to promise you, I'm going to show you my GPU settings here. So I underclocked my base clock offset by 60 hertz, and my memory clock offset is at 400, but this keeps changing. I set it at plus 18.8 millivolts because I'm slightly boosting that memory clock speed on my graphics card, so that's important. But if you look at my temperature, 56, saying roughly around 56. Now if I was to turn on the fan once again, put the extreme coolant, and this, and you can see where the temperature is dropping. 53. It was at 54 Celsius. If you look right here at temperatures, 52, 51. It just keeps dropping and dropping slightly until it reaches like a nice cool 50 Celsius, because normally GPUs are sitting around 50 Celsius low at stock clock speeds around 59, 55 Celsius. But you can see 49 Celsius, it just keeps dropping. Now imagine when I'm gaming, and normally I'm going to tell you where's my list. I had a list. I think I remember the list. So when I was playing Epic Legends, everything on medium to low settings, I was seeking an FPS around 40 to 60 FPS, and on the temperatures were reaching no more than 65, 68 Celsius, which is pretty extremely good. That's including the CPU, by the way. And the clock speeds reach 3.5 gigahertz each time I was playing Epic Legends. So benefits for me. Now it's reaching down to 47. But when I had it on low settings, everything on low settings, and still the CPU is still undervolt, I noticed that a big increase between 45 FPS and 67 FPS, so a little bit of increase in the FPS range, but the temperatures just stay constantly in the low to mid 60s, which is pretty damn awesome. So I was really satisfied with those results. So, but showing you in the real world, being very transparent, by the way. And most people are not going to take this content serious or sit here and watch this long content, and I really don't give a shit. To be honest, I'm looking for people that actually give a damn about the benefits in the real world. This is why I made the live stream instead of making a video, because I feel like the video is not being more transparent if I edited the video. So I decided that I'm going to actually make this a live stream so you guys have a better understanding of where I'm coming from. And aftermarket thermal paste is also really good, guys, so I do recommend getting some of this stuff. So definitely recommend it. Now you can see that I'm actually closer to my microphone this time around, because I wanted it to like slightly bring in some of that dynamic voice and range into the microphone. So that's why I'm about roughly like 5 inches away from the microphone, which is pretty adequate for someone that does podcasting or live streams. But this is the newer NW8100 microphone, so it's not the best microphone. It's a $25 microphone that you can buy on Amazon. I left all the links to all the stuff that I'm using in the link in the descriptions below. Even my PayPal donation link, I left all that in the descriptions below, so you guys go check that out. But I'm gonna turn this off, and we are going to go back into our main screen, so you guys can see my ugly face. But as a panda photographer, you can see all the gear right behind me. Boop, boop. So, as a travel photographer, tech is very, very important to me. It's so important that you guys understand the benefits of undervolting, understanding your hardware. Not just if you're a photographer, okay, or a videographer, and most videographers care about the hardware. It's just the photographers that kind of miss the point about the hardware, because I see a lot of professional photographers that really focus on the hardware of cameras, but don't focus on the hardware on the laptops or the desktops. And some do, but just be more realistic. The average photographer out there is like, what laptop should I buy? Well, I don't know what to look for in CPU performance. Should I buy one with a graphics card? What's the benefits with using a graphics card? What's the benefits of using that? Should I buy SSDs or should I buy a hard drive? You gotta let these people know about, should I use a professional gaming mouse that I can program? I will leave the link for this video down in the description below too. But the Logitech G602 gaming mouse, I used it for Lightroom. If you watch any of them recently this year, season 2 of my Lightroom tutorials, you can see me editing so fast with this mouse and with the Wacom tablet, you know. But as a panda photographer, I want to try to provide content that makes sense and try to provide you some context to what you should be looking for when buying a laptop or purchasing a laptop with a graphics card, and why you should undervolt your CPU. And mind you, buy a microfiber cloth, because some of these laptops are fingerprint magnet and you just want to wipe it down. I'm trying to preserve this laptop as much as possible for the future. So, okay, so keep that in mind. Why I'm using the audio interface when I can use the amazing audio hardware in this laptop? Because I prefer professionalism at its best. I prefer a Zoom H4n Pro. Ooh, deja vu. Wow, I just caught deja vu. It's like I dreamed about this at some point. It's weird. But anyway, I prefer this because I can control what this dynamic microphone, condenser microphone can do. Which, like I said, beginning of this live stream, left a link to that. So, and this answers a question. I always thought you were more power to overclocking the CPU. So let's talk about that. So he said, Avi just said about something about overclock. When I get to the questions, when you overclock, you increase heat, okay, and you can increase voltage, which is not good. You are going to, mind you, when you are overclocking, you're actually taking the lifespan off that CPU. Okay, so it's best to not overclock, and it's also best to like I said, undervolt your CPU and still keep that performance, because overclocking just makes things more complicated, because now you got to increase voltage all the time. Say if your clock speed or your Intel the new Intel 8086K processor, now that's running at 4.5 stock, right? And now say that's at 1.2 volts, and you want to overclock that to say 5.3 gigahertz. Now you're going to increase that voltage, which leads to heat, which you don't want in your laptop or your CPU. I used to overclock a lot of CPUs, and that was one of my biggest mistakes before I learned about undervolting. I would never recommend overclocking the CPU, because what's the benefits of overclocking the CPU when you're actually cleaning the lifespan of the CPU? So I don't recommend it. This is why I recommend undervolting and keep that consistent performance that the CPU is actually providing, because when you're undervolting, like I said, the heat is just, it's annoying. And then that means you gotta buy water cooling parts, and I do recommend, if you do overclock and you're doing if you're doing a water cool build, that might be beneficial for you. But, and let me show you some of my builds. So let me go back in here, show you some of my builds here. These are past old builds. I built one for me and I built one for my daughter. Oh, sorry. I lost my concentration. Oops. Come on. So this is one of my old babies called the Green Lantern. You see, I'm using NVIDIA cards, water cooled. I'm not doing parallel water cooling. I'm using 2 reservoirs, 3 radiators, by the way, 2 pumps to make sure the pumps are. You can see that I'm using SLI. And see the reservoirs, bits power, by the way. And you can see a custom power and reset button. You can see the water loop there, the bar fittings, the 90-degree rotary bar fittings, the radiators on the side there. And that's the build. That was one of the builds. So you guys have a better understanding what I'm used to building all the time. And yes, I did overclock this system, but then I realized that I could undervolt it and keep it at the standard CPU and get great performance that way, and keep the desktop for a long period of time. And here's another build that I built for Nami. This one was the Panda edition. Oh yeah, you know me and that black and white. I love my black and white clothing. Look, I'm wearing black and white now. You can see this one was a triple radiator setup with 2 pumps. You can see the reservoir on top. You can see the temperature and control, and the 2 fans you can see in the front there. That's a radiator actually right there too. So that was a 240 radiator in the front. This is the side panel, back of the panel. You can see closer, and you can see the inside. You can see another radiator on the lower bottom here. You can see another radiator on top. And you can see I'm cooling one GPU. And I used to do a hybrid GPU setup back then, before NVIDIA and ATI was having their battles. I used to do this hybrid setup where I used the AMD graphics card as my main graphics card and the NVIDIA graphics card as my physics graphics card. And I was known for that on my channel, PC Hardware Custom PC channel. Oh yeah. And it's still up there. My YouTube channel is still up there. So, and I'm using an 850 watt power supply. And these are 2 mechanical hard drives that I set up for her to store stuff, and 2 SSDs back then. And SSDs back then were pretty damn expensive. So this was one of the builds there too. So just to give you some context on that. But yeah, let's go back into this screen. So, but let's check out some of these comments. He says that, hey brother, 19 away from 1K, please. Oh, you want me sub? You know, on my channel I don't do sub for sub, and I don't recommend asking for sub while someone else is live streaming. Especially if you come into the live stream and you ask for sub, that's forbidden. YouTube's policy. You might want to read the YouTube community guidelines there. So, thanks, man. I'm going to do this. I don't know if it's possible. It's always possible to do undervolting. It's always possible. Did you already explain how to do this? Yes, I did. So if you are curious, again, I'm going to show you how to do it. So if you just say, like I said, look up your CPU, your CPU, okay? Look up the specs. Which Intel processor or AMD processor? Well, basing this off Intel, because we are using the Intel's extreme tuning utility. So this is the Intel video basically. Let's say you have an Intel processor. Let's say you had the 6600 or the 7700K. Quad core processors can reach 0.140 millivolts, maybe higher. Depends. Not all CPUs are made equally or made the same, as I said earlier in this content. Now, if you have a dual core processor, you do not, I repeat, you do not want to hit no more than 50 millivolts when you go undervolt. So don't go for the triple digits, go for the double digits, and do not go over 50, because dual core processors are sensitive and may throttle back, and you may see blue screen, or you may see a ransom shut down and restart. So keep that in mind. But if you have a quad core processor, keep in mind you can undervolt. Just use the power of the internet to research your processor and YouTube. There's a lot of people out there that share their undervolt experience with doing undervolt. So I definitely do recommend it. So, and what also helps is, as I said, aftermarket thermal paste. It really does help. This stuff is by far good. One of the best. Now, liquid metal, I had tried it before I put this stuff on. And the reason why I took liquid metal off my CPU is because I really don't want to. I had a really uncomfortable experience just leaving it on there. Even though I saw slightly better improvements than the PK3, maybe like 2 degrees better. But that's not worth the risk, in my opinion. So I kept it safe and went back to the PK3. And this is what I'm using. Okay, focus. Come on, focus. Come on, focus. Come on. Look. Focus. It's not focusing. Oh man. It sucks. Was focusing earlier. Come on. It's not focusing. Why? Watch this. Camera's not focusing. Oh boy. Why is it not focused? Okay, push that right there. That's strange. There it is. Now it's focusing. That's odd. Now it's focusing. Is it gonna focus back? I don't know. I'm looking at the display. Both displays actually. It's not focusing back. Now it focuses back. That's maybe maybe I should take it off wide. Wide is giving me some issues. I should leave it on expandable flexible spot. Let's see. Do it again. Actually, maybe I do have it on expandable flexible spot. Maybe I should put it on wide. I don't know. But using the PK3 stuff, so yeah, I definitely do recommend it. Do you guys have any other questions? I remember who Hydroponic is. And I don't want, and that's another thing, Hydroponic, is that my channel, my YouTube channel is, I understand you're bringing up marijuana stuff, but I'm pretty sure YouTube's gonna flag your channel down because they're trying to like cut all that stuff down, and been doing it lately, so. And he's not even responding because he left the channel. He left to ask me for a sub. And this is why I don't sub to people. Listen, I want to grow my channel organically. And I love supporting other channels. But it's the... Wait. Oops. Come on. I'm trying to read the comments. I Ideal 310. It's the i5 7th generation i5 quad core, isn't it? No, i5 is, well, i5 can be quad core, it depends. So download CPU Z. Look up Google CPU Z and see how many cores you got. So let's go Google that right now. All right. So if we was to Google CPU Z, if you download this CPU Z, it will tell you how many cores you actually have. All right. So really good software to download to identify your CPU. This helps identify CPU. So if you want to, that's an option. But don't forget to go to my website at 616studios.com where I have tutorials on photography, videography. You can check out my galleries. You can check out some of the cool should you work for free as a photographer, and join me on social media like Instagram here. Check out the Instagram and Twitter. So don't forget the Twitter. So I really do appreciate it, guys. But yep, I really do appreciate it. And we are 50 minutes into this live stream, which is pretty damn awesome. But that means I'm gonna have to cut this video short in the next 4 minutes. So whoopee yoopee yoopee yoopee. Yeah. But other than that, guys, I do appreciate the time, and if this reaches a community, don't care if it's large or small. This is just my take, and I hope you guys like the production value. Put in a lot of work into this. Every day, gotta pack it up, put it in the Pelican and the load pull bag and the other Osprey bag, and go out one day and do it again the next day. Cause I gotta rent this space for 3 hours, so it takes an hour to set up, an hour to do the podcast, hour to break down. What that leaves me, time to drink some water. But other than that, guys, I do appreciate it. And as a photographer, gear is important. Know your shit. Seriously, gotta know your gear. You gotta know what you're buying. Just don't buy it because you see numbers, and that's like I said earlier in this podcast. I mean, in this live stream. Keep saying podcast. Why? People look at numbers and think numbers. The higher the number, it's better. That's never the case in some point. So look at the specs, see what you get. Especially if you're a photographer and you're looking at a gamer laptop, the hardware might look good, but that display might be shitty as fuck, and that's what you don't want. You don't want something that has bad sRGB or sRGB colors. You want to look at something that is adequate. Now, for gamers, technically, I still like the game at 1080p with a fresh rate at 144 Hz display or 60 Hz. I kind of feel comfortable around that area anyway. I don't really game as much as I used to when I was much younger. I'm 38, if you can't tell from my beautiful young looks. Panda looks, actually. This is the panda look. I'm gonna create something called the panda steel. But anyways, I'm just joking. But other than that, guys, it's a pleasure trying to provide content and try to be humanist at the same time. But let's see if we can help this guy before we leave here. It is the 4-core i5 7200 CPU at 2.5 gigahertz. That's 2.7. Let's go Google that. Let's go into. Alright, so let's go back and let's look up this Intel i5 7200. So this is how you're going to look up your information on your CPU. Alright, we Google it. Here's your CPU. It says that this is a, technically it's actually a 2-core and 4 threads. So this is a dual core processor, not a quad core. Look, right here. Cores, 2. Threads, 4. Max TDP is 15 watts. So this is what I recommend for undervolting your CPU. try to do more. Try to do around 25, 30 millivolts for this CPU here. Because it says configurable TDP up to 25 watts. So estimation about around 25 to 30 millivolts undervolt if you're going to use this the Intel Extreme Tuning Utility. So I'm reading it right here, and the frequency is at 100. Yep. TBD down is at 7.5. Yep, around 25 millivolts. So go down negative, make sure. And if you want to see how to do that, that's so simple, guys. So go into full control. By the way, you're going to be on static. You're going to take this off static and place it on adapt. And then you're going to take your bar and you can go up and down. And what I recommend for your CPU is around, like I said, 25 millivolts here, or 30 millivolts. Try to see where that fits and try to load up the game. If your game gets a little bit glitchy or buggy, you want to fall back to 25 millivolts. So hopefully that gives you some direction. All right, buddy? Hopefully that works out for you. And mind you, when you do that on the core voltage offset, it's automatically going to apply it to the cache voltage offset as well. So don't worry about that. Hit apply, save it. If it does work out very well, save it. So you are welcome. So, but you're gonna constantly keep performance when using it on certain applications. That's the most important thing. Don't ever try to overclock the CPU. Don't ever try to do that. Don't add more voltage to a CPU, because technically overclocking is like dead. Overclock is not, it's dead now. Overclock used to be something back in like the early 2000s. Yeah, overclock the CPU, but the demigration process over time makes the CPU much slower, and there's problems and more heat that is drawn because of adding more voltage to the CPU. The more problems you're gonna get. So yeah, so try to keep it to undervolting status. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But other than that, guys, thank you for tuning in and watching the live stream. It's about that time. I gotta break this stuff down again. Ugh, so much hard work to do. It's not even, I'm not even kidding. This stuff is just, how do I do it? I don't know. Motivation. I just do it. But if you guys want to support the channel, hit the PayPal donation link. Really does help me out. If you want to buy some of the gear that I have here all around me, all the links are down in the descriptions below. Don't go broke though. Don't go broke. But with that said, everyone, eat, sleep, photography, videography, gaming, repeat, and I will see you guys in the next live stream. And you guys take care. Happy shooting. Peace. He's installing XTU now. Okay. Enjoy. Let me know what happens. Follow me. Peace.